KWT slaying.
What if the truth was never lost, only buried? For centuries, historians, scholars, and even colonial records have confirmed what many tried to silence. The original Israelites were a black people scattered across continents but never erased. Their skin was dark, their customs ancient, and their covenant with Yah eternal. This journey uncovers how the Spanish and Portuguese Jews, described as dark-skinned, Semitic, shared one bloodline. Chased by the Inquisition, many fled to Portugal, then beyond, preserving their heritage across borders. But the story doesn't end in Iberia. Across from West Africa, black Jews built synagogues, kept Torah, and passed down the laws of Moses. The Limba in southern Africa, the Igbo in Nigeria, the Beta Israel in Ethiopia, tribes across the continent boldly declared, "We are the children of Israel." These aren't isolated claims. These are voices rising from the dust, connected by oral histories, Torah traditions, and the unbroken rhythm of their identity. No such legacy exists among European Jews. No centuries of tribal witness, no matching traditions, no trace of ancient covenant keeping. Maps, art, and archaeology tell the same story. The Israelites were scattered, enslaved, and displaced, but never lost. The world always knew who they were. Their presence was visible, their customs alive, their story intact. This book doesn't speculate. It confirms the Israelites were black, bound by blood, culture, and covenant to the Most High. This is not just history, it's restoration. The truth was never destroyed, only buried beneath centuries of deception. Get your copy of They Always Knew We Were Israelites today, available now on Amazon.com.
Salama family, salama, how y'all doing today? Hope you're blessed and highly favored. So yeah, Minister Tayu's book is available at Amazon. Any issues is no longer there, so you could go and get your copy today. Also, you could get mine, True Jerusalem. What we have today is prophetic times that are just off the charts, right? It's off the charts. It still boggles my mind that people don't understand that we're in the biblical time frame and what's really happening. And so that's what we're going to sort of talk about today. And if I have enough time, I'm going to put the link out afterwards. And, if y'all want to come on and have a little comments, we could do that. So one of the things I want to share is, for you all that see the post that on the community for YouTube was this particular article. Okay, MSNBC host says people of color are next in line for Trump's deportations. Now, it's very interesting, family. I sort of remember somebody saying the same thing, but he was accused of flea doctrine. Who could that be, family? Do y'all remember? Slipping my mind right now. But anyway, it goes on to say Former media advisor to Kamala Harris, or Kamala, some people like to say that, Kamala, and current MSNBC host Simone Sanders sparked controversy over the weekend by suggesting the Trump administration is preparing to target Black Americans for deportation. A claim not supported by any official policy or statement from the administration. Well, you can't do that right now, right? You can't have an official policy until you're ready, right? You can't comment on that until you're ready. During a panel discussion, Sanders cited an op-ed by NAACP Legal Defense Fund President Janelle Nelson, published in The Nation, which warned that democratic institutions are often dismantled incrementally. Yes, and that's what I've been saying, right? If you got eyes to see, you can see. Sanders used the argument to frame the Trump administration's recent deportation actions, particularly those involving Kilmar Abrego Garcia, a confirmed MS-13 gang member. Nah, he has not been confirmed. He is not a confirmed MS-13 gang member. Come on now, that's fake news. All right, a confirmed MS-13 gang member deported to El Salvador in March as a harbinger of a broader campaign against people of color. Sanders referenced individuals allegedly sent to detention facilities despite having no criminal records, and warned that the administration's actions could eventually lead to students and others being snatched off the streets without any pushback or recourse. All right. So this is what I've been saying that I believe is coming, right, for Black Americans. All right. And there's a lot of stuff for that. You know, we know we're Israel. We know that we are the true Ezra Alawi, but, you know, more than half of our people still sleep. So they don't understand that all of this is prophetic. Homegrowns are next. Homegrowns are next. Trump hopes to deport and jail U.S. citizens abroad. I told y'all, right? I told y'all what's coming. I told y'all, right? All I do is get beat up for it. But hey, you know, I got to do what the Most High called me to do. President Trump says his administration is actively exploring a proposal to detain U.S. citizens and send them to prisons in El Salvador. Speaking Monday, minutes before a press briefing alongside El Salvador's president, Nayib Bukele, Trump could be heard embracing the concept. The homegrowns are next. The homegrowns. You've got to build about 5 more places, Trump said to Bukele, an apparent reference to prison space that would be needed in El Salvador to house U.S. citizens. El Salvador is already holding hundreds of people in a maximum security prison. They were flown from the U.S. in recent weeks after being detained for allegedly lacking legal status or having gang affiliations. Critics say many of those individuals were deported with limited or no due process. There's no due process. Some in defiance of court orders by U.S. judges. Now, keep that in mind. Defiance of court orders. Okay, so the people who proclaim and espouse law and order and due process are ignoring law and order and due process. Okay, I mean, that's how it's always been for us. It's never been, you know, where they follow the laws concerning us. Now it's affecting everybody else, right? Responding to Trump on Monday, Bukele suggested his country is prepared to incarcerate U.S. citizens. Yeah, we've got space, El Salvador's president said. Well, if they keep doing what they're doing, it ain't going to be too long before that movie called Civil and a W and an A and an R comes across. I mean, they predicted that, right? And so now we have the feelings that, you know, these particular things could happen based upon some of these policies, right? So the proposal has drawn condemnation from some legal scholars who said it would represent an unprecedented encroachment on the civil liberties of U.S. citizens. I told y'all what's happening, right? And so now we can see everything coming to pass. If you have eyes to see, some people still going to stick their hand in the sand and say, hey, let's build a Goshen, right? You're going to go ahead and try and build a Goshen while Egypt trying to chop your head off. I'm just saying, right? That just makes sense. All right. It's obviously unconstitutional, obviously illegal. There's no authority in any U.S. law to deport U.S. citizens, and certainly not to imprison them in a foreign country, said David Beer of the Cato Institute, a libertarian think tank based in Washington, D.C. So here's the deal. He who has the guns make the rules. It don't matter what's on a piece of paper. It does not matter what's on a piece of paper. And so laws are there and they can be enforced or not enforced. And who's going to stop it? Who's going to stop it? That's just the whole thing, right? The problem, of course, is Trump already has illegally deported hundreds of people by just not giving the courts an opportunity to stop him by or at it. I think that's the real fear now, that he is going to try to evade judicial review of deportations of U.S. citizens. So guess what? Everybody's in danger. Everybody's in danger. You're in danger. I'm in danger. Everybody's in danger. It doesn't matter if you're a U.S. citizen. If there's no due process. But you have to understand, when there's no law, there's no order, right? When there's no law, there's no order. So let's say if you're not enforcing the law, then there's no order. Or if you're selectively enforcing the law, there is no order. So a lot of people are scared, right? It's sort of like the time of the Nazi Holocaust, right? With the concentration camps, nobody said anything. I was a unionist and nobody said anything, right? I was a Jew and nobody said anything because I wasn't a Jew. You know the whole saying. But then when it came down to me, right, there was nobody left to speak up for me. So that's sort of the same situation we're in. I mean, it's a bit obvious. So right now, a lot of people are scared, right, because it can hit anybody. So people not going to say anything. Nobody, very few going to speak out. Why? Because they might go to El Salvador, right? And that can happen now. Our lives are in the hands of the Most High, right? Whatever he says goes. But understand this. The Bible says that the devil's going to put some of you in prison for 10 days. Maybe that's going to happen. Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe this is the time frame. I mean, because of course it's going to happen. It's in the word. But maybe this is the time frame, right? So we don't know. And a lot of people are going to betray you. Your mama going to betray you. Your daddy going to betray you. Your aunts and your uncles and your TDs are going to betray you. Why? Because everybody going to be scared and everybody goes along with the power structure. That's how it happened during the time of Hitler. Same thing today. Not everyone is voicing opposition to Trump's concept of detaining U.S. citizens and sending them overseas. NPR contacted 3 prominent conservative legal scholars, all declined to comment. I wonder why. All declined to comment. Everybody getting scared. We also contacted 3 conservative legal think tanks. 1 declined to comment, 2 others didn't respond. See, this is the time we're in. Everybody's in danger. And you want to know who's in more danger than even the immigrants? You folks, you black folks, you Israelites, you Negroes, you African Americans. I know. You go, but making me scared. I'm just trying to tell you. This is the time of purging. This is the time of purging. First they came for them. Then they came for the Jews, right? Just like the Holocaust, just like Hitler. Ain't no different. So I want to show you something, right? So you can understand what's really happening. So the coming purge, Black Americans are the true target. Immigrants are the test case. Blacks are the end game. Illegal immigrants are being used right now to train society to accept large-scale purges, detention camps, mass deportations, stripping of rights, and stripping of birthright citizenship. Trump's second term plans include Project 2025, openly call for mass deportations. Millions of people, regardless of age or condition. Birthright citizenship is under direct attack. Trump has said he wants to end it by executive order. If Americans can be conditioned to accept ripping U.S.-born children from their homes simply because of their parents' immigration status, then it will be much easier to justify targeting Black Americans next. Why? Because Black Americans historically have always been falsely painted as undeserving citizens and treated as outsiders even after the 14th Amendment. The first purge trains the system for the second larger purge. Okay, y'all get that, right? The first purge trains the system. It conditions the Americans. It conditions society, right, to accept it. to accept these changes, accept the mass deportations, to accept the idea that birthright citizenship does not apply to certain classes of people. First, Purge trains the system. The first purge, the Venezuelans, the Mexicans, the immigrants, trains the system. For the second larger purge, who's the second larger purge? Negroes, Hebrew Israelites, African Americans, foundational Black Americans. Oh, some of y'all think, well, I'm a citizen. They can't touch me. He who has the guns makes the rules. Number two, birthright citizenship attack is primarily a Trojan horse against Black citizenship. The 14th Amendment was passed to guarantee Black citizenship after slavery, not for immigrants. And that's true. Trump says that. By weakening the 14th Amendment, Trump and Project 2025 create legal justifications for stripping rights from Black Americans. Once you successfully claim not everyone born here is a citizen, you can begin redefining who counts as a true American. Extremists already hint at this. Groups like VDARE and certain segments of Trump's base argue that real Americans are white and Black Americans are perpetual dependents or interlopers. Black Americans are perpetual dependents or interlopers. Is that not what they call us? We're dependents. You got to have Section 8. We got to have SNAP benefits, right? We depend on the system. We got to have free Medicare, Medicaid, whatever, Obamacare. If birthright citizenship is undermined, Black Americans' legal status becomes vulnerable. Number three, law and order will be used to justify the racial purge. Trump talks constantly about law and order, but it is code for militarized crackdowns on Black communities. Does that not sound familiar? Does it sound like 3 strikes and you're out? In 2020, Trump wanted to invoke the Insurrection Act to use active military force against Black Lives Matter protests, not white insurrectionists. The Project 2025 blueprint specifically wants to expand federal policing, remove oversight on police brutality, and end Department of Justice civil rights investigations into racist policing. This means the police could be used to round up and remove targeted populations under the cover of restoring order. Militarized police tactics against immigrants will be redirected against Black communities next, all right? This is common chess moves, right? This is obvious, right? And if you can't see it, if you don't see the threat, right, then you're going to be caught up in it. As a matter of fact, many are going to be caught up in it anyway. Why? Because there's no flee doctrine, right? You're Cobra wrong about it. You're not going to have to flee. I told you you're going to be pushed out. You ain't got to listen to me. I've been right so far. But I'm waiting for the exodus. Number 4, segregation is a step towards removal. Trump's move to remove the anti-segregation clause from federal contracts is not just symbolic. It is a signal. Prepare for resegregated housing, resegregated schools, resegregated workplaces. Historically, segregation was what? The first phase of racial cleansing. Historically, segregation was the first phase of racial cleansing. Separate the targeted group, weaken them economically, then eliminate or displace them. Concentration camps were preceded by segregation in Germany. We are watching the same slow process now. Segregation is a necessary step before mass removal can happen. Notice nobody's fighting for you. Very few people pushing back against what's happening, right? Understand, they're going to get them, the Venezuelans and the Mexicans first, but they're coming for us next. Number 5, public opinion is being groomed to accept Black disenfranchisement and expulsion. Propaganda against wokeness, CRT, DEI programs, and Black history is designed to what? Dehumanize Black Americans. Didn't I tell y'all that? Isn't it a bit obvious? Give me a 1 if it's obvious. Give me a 2 if it's not. That the removal of what they call wokeness, CRT, DEI, Black history is obviously used to dehumanize Black Americans. All right. If y'all don't see that, I feel sorry for you. The narrative is being crafted. Black people are being portrayed as lazy, ungrateful, subversive, violent, and privileged in the twisted anti-CRT worldview. This propaganda creates public consent. If enough Americans believe Black Americans are troublemakers or undeserving, they will accept or even support actions to strip rights, jobs, housing, and eventually push for expulsion or imprisonment. I wonder who said they're going to push you out. I can't remember. I can't remember, y'all. Did somebody say they're going to push y'all out? Trump supporters already cheer for mass deportations of immigrants. The machinery of hate is being normalized. See, that's what's happening, right? First, you start with the Mexicans, you start with the Latinos, you start with the Venezuelans, you kick them out, right? And then you come after the Negroes, who's a little harder to get. Why? Because they brought us over here, right? And then they passed the 14th Amendment for us, right? But once the machinery starts moving and everybody's living in fear because they're scared they're going to be deported to El Salvador, whether they're a U.S. citizen or not, because there's no longer any due process, there's no more habeas corpus, everybody could go straight to concentration camps and get deleted. And guess what? You have no recourse. That's the time we're in right now. We are literally in the time of another Hitler. I mean, that's just what's happening, right? And so you can't be scared. Like, like I told you, they had somebody telling me I don't have no faith. I'm like, I have faith because I believe the word. The word told me this was going to happen. So I'm like, I prepared for it. I'm living my day by day, doing the work of the Most High, just in case I'm not going to be here no more. Whether I go back to the continent or I go see the Father in heaven, what we call heaven, the Shemaim or whatever y'all want to call it. The hidden agenda is a Black purge. Immigrants are the first wave of this new racial purge, a necessary conditioning process. Let me repeat. Immigrants are the first wave of this new racial purge, a necessary conditioning process. But Black Americans are the ultimate target. First, remove protections, DEI, CRT, civil rights enforcement. Then segregate physically and economically. Then criminalize law and order crackdowns. Then strip citizenship claims, attack birthright citizenship. Then they could get rid of you, right? I told you that might be how we end up in the wilderness. You're going to be pushed out. Because the wilderness experience is not the same thing as the second Exodus. It's not the same. Then target for removal or incarceration. Target for removal or incarceration. I'm going to tell you something about that in a second. This is how fascist purges historically work. Just as the Jews in Germany were first segregated, economically strangled, falsely blamed for societal problems, then finally expelled and exterminated, Black Americans are being lined up in the crosshairs with immigrants as the test subject. And see, everybody's scared and nobody wants to talk about it. Everybody want to act like all things remain the same since the fathers fell asleep. No, we are in umbilical time. As a matter of fact, according to my understanding, I believe we're somewhere around Revelation 12, where the dragon is after the woman and the woman's going to have to run into the wilderness. Black Americans are being lined up in the crosshairs with immigrants as the test case. If they could get away with this with Mexicans and Venezuelans, and they could get away with this with even Germans and Canadians, right? They put some Canadians in the detention facilities. If they could get away with this with those people, they're coming for us next, right? It's not hard to see. And see, some people are going to say, well, Yeah, you're teaching fear again, Jacob. I'm like, hey, it is what it is. Is it not there? Or is it? Am I blowing smoke or not? Is it true or false? Can you see it or are you blind? So what they're doing is they're building up this racial antagonism. What they're building up is what the Bible says, ethnos against ethnos, ethnic group against ethnic group. Matthew chapter 24. Kingdom against kingdom, nation against nation, ethnic group against ethnic group. We are here, right? This is it. And so they're going to build up this, what I talked about last time, this clash of civilizations. They're building up this clash of civilization. Unfortunately, you've been right too many times. I know. I feel you too. I feel you too. Sometimes I don't like being right either. You know, because it's moving too fast, brother Asaph. It's moving too fast. All right. So there's this conflict of civilizations happening. And they are purposefully building this right now. You know, there's so many. Look, y'all know I can't even keep up with the stuff no more. We knew this was coming, right? We knew that the prophecies were going to happen so fast. And it's sort of like what I heard like probably 30 years ago. This guy said that when they move to implement the New World Order, right, this is when they're going to see everything. So they're going to have to move real fast, right? Because once they start implementing the New World Order, it's going to be out for everyone to recognize. And before they can stop it, they have to move really fast. And I think that's why Trump is moving so fast, because they got the 2030 agenda. And in order to meet their targeted deadline, he has to do this real quick. He has to do executive orders. He has to, you know, ignore court rulings and stuff like that, right? Because he's trying to implement the New World Order. Now, I'm not saying everything he's doing is bad, because guess what? I went outside today, and guess what I saw that I haven't seen in a long time? I've seen clear skies. You know, I haven't seen clear skies in, what, 15 years, maybe 20. I've seen, well, I did see clear sky during the COVID time frame. I did see it then, but for the most part, now it's clear skies. I don't know what they're doing. Then supposedly they're clamping down on the poisons in the food and the water. Right? Oh, you see chemtrails prior to Judah? I haven't seen any today, and I'm in Dallas, so I don't know. But I'm gonna say this: that what we have here is the building of a Make America Great Again, but not for you. They're going to clean up the skies, but not for you. It's going to be for the right-wing, conservative, Republican, Christian. They're cleaning up the food, but not for you. Why? Because it's going to be for the right-wing, conservative, Christian, right? White supremacist, right? Why? I have a theory. My theory is they're going to push you out, like I've been saying. And my theory is that you're going to have a choice. You're going to have an initial choice to leave. I'm assuming this is just my theory. Eat the meat, spit out the bones. My theory is that they're going to give you the option to go to the continent. They're going to work out some kind of deals with some of the African nations to take us in. And you're going to have a choice whether to stay or to go. And those who go, you know, following the scriptures, knowing that we're supposed to go, they're going to be protected. Those who stay, because some of y'all hard-headed, y'all going to say, this is my home. Y'all going to say that I'm a Native American Indian. Y'all going to say my grandmother and my grandfather fought for my right to vote, and I'm going to fight for my right to vote in my land. Y'all stay here. And you're going to perish with this nation. Because soon as we leave, all hell going to break loose. As a matter of fact, it's going to start breaking loose beforehand, like it already is. Before this year out, don't be surprised that it's going to be an unrecognized nation. It's going to be unrecognizable. Let's see here. At this browser thing. All right. Can y'all hear me now? I had some kind of resource issue. Can y'all hear me now? Give me a one if you could hear me. Yeah, I have some resource issues right now. Hold on. I had rebooted my system. Let's see here. I think it's this browser I'm using. All right, let's see what happens here. All right, let's see how this works, fam. We're gonna see how this works. Try to free up some resources. All right, ignore the cussing.
Let's go! Yeah, let's go. You're getting. Okay. 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 Okay, Mr. Caucasian, we're listening.
Let's go.
I do something so you can go to jail. Do something so you can go to jail.
Let's go.
Do something so you can go to jail.
Let's go.
Jail.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Let's go.
To prison.
Go.
To
Let's
jail.
fucking go. Let's fucking go. You want to fight me? You want to fight me? Let's go.
Have you recorded?
Let's go.
Let's
go. This is the third time. Third time. Third fucking time.
No one talked to you. You racist cunt.
You fucking
You're
nigger.
racist.
Fuck that for
You're racist. You
Fuck
are.
you.
Yeah.
Oh, does he live here? He lives here, right?
You don't belong here.
You're out. You're out. Find a new place to live.
So I assume that she's a minority of some sort. She called him Mr. Caucasian, right? And she called him a racist. So I assume she's a minority. Maybe she's black. She sounds white, but I don't know. You know, who knows, right? But that's what we got to deal with, right? That is white supremacist Christianity. That's what we have to deal with, right? That's what's coming. These are the type of events that is going to become normal.
Now, NBC News has confirmed that as part of Donald Trump's mass deportation raids, ICE agents have snagged American citizens along with Native Americans, and racial profiling fears are growing because of it. According to NBC News, the Navajo Nation office has been flooded with calls from tribal members living off reservation, with many saying that they have been questioned as part of ICE raids. Navajo Nation citizens are American citizens. And the Navajo president has even confirmed that there have been negative and sometimes traumatizing encounters between ICE and Navajo Nation citizens. Newark, a U.S. military veteran who's an American citizen, was detained for a period of time because of an ICE raid. In New York, a warehouse manager who's a U.S. citizen has been detained for a period of time. With more raids to come, this will likely only increase. If you're watching this video and you are fearful, carry your identification with you. And go to the ACLU's website to learn more about what you can do if an ICE agent does approach you and you are a US citizen, for example. As always, comment below your thoughts, spread the word, and follow along on here and on my other social platforms linked in my bio for more news.
All right. So the fact that they're going after Navajo Indians, who are by definition Native Americans or Americans, even U.S. citizens, if they can go for them, how hard would it be to come for us, right? 14th Amendment or no 14th Amendment, just the beginning.
According to the Texas Observer, an ICE prosecutor in Dallas has been found to be running a white supremacist Twitter account. According to the Observer, there is a Twitter account with over 17,000 followers named Glomar Responder, and it made an ominous post, quote, "Yeah, I'm in a courthouse waiting on warrants." After investigation, the Observer found that the reporter, a Glomar Responder, was named James Jim Joseph Rodden, a 44-year-old who works as an assistant chief counsel for ICE in Dallas. His responsibility is to represent the agency in immigration court hearings where judges decide whether an individual is actually removed from the country. And in the past, Glomar Responder, created in 2012, posted hateful, xenophobic, and pro-fascist comments, including "America is a white nation founded by whites. Our country should favor us." Further wrote, quote, "Migrants are all criminals. It is our holy duty to guard against the foreign hordes." These are all comments on his Twitter account, according to the Observer. You can read this full article online on the Texas Observer's website. I'll do a full breakdown of this and more shortly on my sub.
So what do y'all think gonna happen, right? Because it's a bit obvious, I think, because when we look at the appointments that the Trump administration had, they had, some white supremacist appointments like Stephen Miller, right? He was Trump's senior advisor and architect of hardline immigration policies and was revealed to have promoted white nationalist literature and ideas in emails endorsing racist concepts that shocked civil rights groups. Despite calls for his resignation over his deep-seated racism, Miller not only remained, but became the driving force behind measures like the Muslim travel ban and family separations at the border. Another stark example is Darren Beatty, a former Trump speechwriter whom Trump appointed in 2025 to a senior State Department post. Beatty has openly embraced white nationalist conspiracy theories. He was fired in 2018 after it emerged he spoke at a white supremacist conference. Yet in Trump's second term, Beatty was named acting Undersecretary of State for Public Diplomacy. The Anti-Defamation League warned he has no place in a role representing American values abroad, noting Beatty's history of associating with notorious racists and promoting the Great Replacement theory popular among white supremacists. Tellingly, Beatty had posted that America's ideology coddles women and minorities at the expense of competent white men, declaring competent white men must be in charge. Despite such overt racist rhetoric, Trump rewarded Beatty with a key propaganda platform in government, a clear indication that extremist ideology is not a disqualifier in this administration, but rather seemingly a credential. Another one is the pardoning of Joe Arpaio, who had been convicted of contempt of court for defying an order to stop racially profiling Latino residents. By pardoning Arpaio, essentially absolving him from illegal discrimination, Trump was endorsing racism, critics said. This act sent a chilling signal that defying court orders to violate minorities' rights would be tolerated or even praised. Together, these examples demonstrate an administration stocked with a sympathetic to figures steeped in white nationalist ideology, setting the tone for policies to come. All right. So we can see all of this stuff happening, right? We see all of this. And, a lot of people want to deal with the normacy bias. So.
Attorneys just argued that the assassination of a political opponent for personal means could be an official act that he would.
Let me refresh this again.
Donald Trump's attorneys just argued that the assassination of a political opponent for personal means could be an official act that he would be absolutely immune for in front of the United States Supreme Court. Watch the moment below.
If the president decides that his rival is a corrupt person, and he orders the military or orders someone to assassinate him, is that within his official acts that for which he can get immunity?
It would depend on the hypothetical, but we can see that could well be an official act.
It could, and why? Because he's doing it for personal reasons.
As you just heard, Justice Sotomayor asked John Sauer whether or not a president assassinating a political opponent could be considered an official act such that he would be absolutely immune for taking that action. And instead of categorically saying absolutely not because it's for personal purposes, that would not be an official act, Sauer's response was merely, it could be. I'll be covering the full Trump oral arguments today, so be sure to stay tuned for all the news you need to know. Donald?
So did y'all catch that? They're arguing whether or not he could have a hit put out on somebody and be, protected because of his immunity as president. Can we say Don Corleone? Can we say mafia boss? These are dangerous times, y'all. Y'all keep letting people gaslight you like nothing's happening. And you might not have to flee. I'm just saying.
Hey, y'all. How y'all doing? Y'all all right? I'm good. Look at here. Look. I got a video I want y'all to watch with me. Hold on. Here we go.
They said, we got to make sure we don't get another Dr. King. Right. They said, how did Dr. King manage to pull this off without us financing it? Right. They said independent black businesses financed the civil rights movement. White man said, yeah. They said, yes. So guess what we're going to do? We're going to go into the ghetto and we're going to crush the independent black businesses. How you going to do that? Two things. Number one, we're going to go into their high schools. We're going to go into Chattanooga. We're going to go to Memphis. We're going to go to Nashville. We're going to go to Knoxville. Right. And guess what we're going to do? We're going to go into every black high school and take out all the building trades. We're going to make sure they cannot be taught how to use their hands to feed their family ever again. They took out auto shop. They took out the electric program. They took out plumbing. They took out welding. They took out HVAC. This is what they did. This is what they did. This is the beginning of the war between the black woman and the black man. They made the black man economically irrelevant to the black woman's life. They said, this is how we're going to kill black power. We're going to set the family against each other. If we can set the black woman against the black man, he won't have time to fight us because he got to fight his own woman. Right. So they went into the high schools and took out all the building trades. Think about it. Before 1980, the black community was never about going to college to take care of our family because we wasn't allowed in the colleges. Right. So they would change this. So while they taking away our economics by making sure our boys ain't learning the skills that pay the bills, making sure our boys no longer learn the skills that pay the bills, they started this college education propaganda. Go to college. America is integrated now. You can go to Harvard and Stanford and Yale, and we sent our kids $100,000 loans. Go. Failing to realize that even though they got that degree, who gonna give them a job? Right. It was a trap. Right. It was a trap. Right. So then in 1970, they economically decimated us. And then they took all the factories out the black community. You go to most northern and midwestern cities, Detroit, Chicago, Philadelphia, Baltimore, you see old factories. Yeah. That's where we used to work. Yeah. Good jobs, made more then than we make now with college degrees. They got rid of all of them. Yeah. That was the 1970s, but they wasn't done. 1980s, CIA drop off the crack cocaine. Boom. Yeah. So now a black man can no longer earn with his hands. He got to make a decision with this crack. This is a booming business. You can smoke it to deal with the pain of not being able to provide for your family, right, or you can try to sell it and provide for your family. Right. Either way, you're tearing us up. And you're going to jail, which takes us to 1990, Bill Clinton crime bill, 1994. Boom, look at this. Yeah. Every decade since they killed King, they didn't hit us. So the 70s, economic castration. 80s, the crack. 1990, Bill Clinton crime bill under a Democratic president that black people consider to be one of their best. Yeah, our boy. You got Bill Clinton locked up more black men than any Republican president since Reconstruction. Right. Mandatory 3 strikes and you out. Mandatory federal minimum wages for nonviolent drug-related offenses. Kicked millions of black women off welfare in the welfare to work program. And then he did something else under the table we weren't even watching. He criminalized child support. That was Clinton. Oh. Clinton did that. That happened under Bill Clinton. Before Bill Clinton, you didn't go to jail if you didn't have a job to pay your child support. Right. He snuck that in. And the reason he was able to snuck it in is because I don't think they put the language directly in the crime bill. Right. So the black community didn't fight it because they didn't know that that was part of the whole mix. Right. He criminalized child support. So any black man with a child technically is on parole any damn way. Now that's deep. 10 more years, we come to the year 2000, election of George W. Bush for president. He comes in with the FBI, faith-based initiative. where he finds a loophole in federal law that allows him to fund black church. If you want to know why you ain't seen the black church involved in any major struggle affecting black folks, have you noticed that you don't see the black church dealing with police genocide? You don't see the black church dealing with miseducation. You don't see the black church dealing with unemployment. You don't see the black church dealing with mass incarceration. Can you name one thing that the black church is at the forefront of changing for black folks? You can't. Why? Because of Y2K, the new millennium came with a new takeover of the black church. The federal government now owns the black church. FBI, faith-based initiative. Your pastor is the new snitch.
Now that's deep. Now that's what year was this?
2000.
Okay.
Which is also the same year that the federal government decided that they were going to take back all major cities from blacks and gentrify them back in the hands of whites.
Yep.
That was Y2K.
Yep.
You're seeing it now, but it was decided 20 years ago.
Right.
That was Y2K. They unemployed us. They drug addicted us. They mass incarcerated us. They neutralized the black church, and they took back the ghettos. They said, we got to make sure we don't get another Dr. King.
Right.
So why do y'all think the churches haven't said anything about the last, 5 years? What's been going on? Why do you think the churches aren't involved in anything? Why? Because they're co-opted. But it's not just the churches. It's any 501c3. It's the camps, right? It's the churches. It's Jehovah's Witness, is Muslims, Islam, it's everybody, right? They're all co-opted, right? They're all controlled. And so when we look at what's happening today with people who are talking about building a Goshen, right? You can't build a Goshen here. Just like they burned down our towns before, they'll burn it down again. Now what we have is the pillars that held up most of black society, which is the federal government that employed most minorities, right? Not just quote unquote black folks, but most minorities. Now that's gone. That's being dismantled, right? So even like with the post office, I think 30% of the post office employees are black. That's going to be removed. And so how do you build something? So it's like I said, to me, it's a bit obvious that what we're dealing with is making it so uncomfortable for you that not only do you can't stay, you won't want to stay, right? They're going to make it where you can't take care of yourself. You can't put a roof over your head, right? Even like recently, it just came out today about Trump and his administration going after people and their school loans, because most people are behind on school loans. And he's going after people with that. And most people can barely survive, right? They can barely keep the roof over their head, barely pay for food, and barely send their kids to school. So now you're going to force them to pay back school loans, which they can't, right? Most people are in default. And so therefore they're going to take their homes, take their cars, and a lot of people are going to be put on the street. And they can't just do it to Negroes right away. They got to do it to everybody. But guess what? It's going to be mostly Negroes and minorities who are going to feel most of the pain. If you can't see that they're making America uncomfortable for you, right? I feel sorry for you. I mean, you have no vision. You have no spiritual insight. If you can't see that you cannot build a Goshen in Egypt, when Goshen is trying to kill, when Egypt is trying to kill every firstborn male, I feel sorry for you, right? Because Pharaoh is coming after you with his chariots. That's why you see in Revelation 12 that the dragon is chasing the woman. He's going to chase us into the wilderness. He's going to chase you. I told you, you're going to be pushed out. You can't understand the scriptures. It's a bit clear to me. So in my opinion, I think we have this complex, and everything is a dialectic, complex dialectic in place that is going to force Negroes, force Hebrew Israelites, force Israel Alawi to decide to leave because they won't be able to survive, right? And they're moving pretty quick. Now, also, if you notice, they're also, having this huge disagreement with the continent, right? Ibrahim Traore had several attempts on his life. They just stopped another attempt. I mean, I'd be tired of people trying to kill me. I ain't gonna lie. And I think they're trying to force him to become, you know, like Kim Jong-un. But be honest with you, I think he might have to become like Kim Jong-un in order to survive. I don't know. But Africa is also it's part of the dialectic. And I'm going to tell you what I think, just my opinion. I'm not saying I'm right, but I'm going to tell you what I think is happening there. But let's look at this article right here. Trump looks willing to write off an entire continent. Administration officials say African countries cannot just invoke China and get aid. Many presidents have promised to fundamentally change the U.S. relationship with Africa, focusing more on trade and less on aid. President Donald Trump might actually make that shift happen. At first glance, Trump's recent moves look like a sudden and very messy breakup with a whole continent. From dismantling the U.S. Agency for International Development to considering banning visitors from many African countries, the U.S. appears to be abandoning these nations to deal on their own, with challenges ranging from battling AIDS to weak education systems. The U.S. is also expected to close several embassies in Africa, and some reports suggest that Trump wants to scale back America's military operations on the continent. Now, they need our resources, right? So why would Trump scale back military operations, right? We have the, whatever the black guy name, whoever that general is, y'all can put it in the chat, who threatened Burkina Faso, right? Saying that Ibrahim is stealing gold and stuff. I'm like, what y'all got to do with it? It ain't your land, it ain't your gold, so step back, right? But anyway, we'll talk about that a little bit. While the Trump administration is retrenching globally and imposing tariffs all over, no region appears to matter less to the White House than Africa. And I'm going to tell you what I think is happening. It's just a theory, right? It's just a theory. People in Trump's orbit and even some African politicians argue that the moves will benefit both the United States and the continent of 54 countries in the long run. I do believe that. The goal, they say, is to push African governments to invest more of their own money in public services and to take steps to turbocharge their private sectors, possibly even making them more receptive to citizens' needs, right? They do have to do this, right? And that is something that would happen as the West pulls out of having, you know, the amount of influence that they have on the continent. That's a risky bet, considering that some argue U.S. aid is helping forestall larger conflicts on the continent, preventing global health crises and providing counterweight to Chinese influence in the region. But those are risks the Trump administration appears comfortable taking, which I'm fine with, because to be honest with you, they all need to get off the continent. They all need to keep their head in their own mess, right? If an African government wants strong relations with Washington, including future development assistance, it must pay up in other ways, ranging from giving access to minerals to accepting deportees. Trump backers told me, let me read that to y'all, okay? All right, pay close attention. If an African government wants strong relations with Washington, including future development assistance, it must pay up in other ways, ranging from giving access to minerals. So, you know, Trump want everybody minerals, just like Greenland, right? To accepting what? To accepting deportees. Trump backers told me. Now, this is the theory I have, and I've been having this for a while, is that Trump and his administration and the right-wing Christians are making America untenable for us, right? Therefore, we can't stay here anymore. It's going to be too hot, too difficult. Just as everybody was trying to leave the African continent to come to America, we will want to leave here to go to Africa. So my theory is that there's going to be some behind the room deal for these African countries to accept deportees. So instead of sending us to El Salvador, they're going to send us back to the continent of Africa. and get some future development assistance by doing so, right? If you watch, you can see that this makes sense, the way things are moving. So they're going to make it uncomfortable here where you can't survive so that you want to leave. And they're going to give incentives to leave. And they're going to give incentives to the African nations to accept us, which is how we end up in the wilderness. Okay. This is my theory of how it could play out. Right. And so as we go back, many of us going to have to deal with that wilderness experience. You know, hey, you know, when I was in Egypt, I had quail. When I was in Egypt, I had clean water. We're going to have to deal with all that. The housing in the roads were a lot better in America than in Burkina Faso or Tanzania, right? We're going to have to deal with those type of things, right? And so those who stay here in America, I'm talking about you Negroes, and talking about you foundational Black Americans. I'm talking about some of you Hebrew Israelites who are, you know, dealing with cognitive dissonance. When y'all decide to stay here, y'all going to fall under the judgments that's coming on here once we're gone. Okay, you know that, right? You know that judgment is already falling on this place, right? And when it does, and you still here, it's going to fall on you. Look, somebody just said that Ghana mess was a debt trap. Look, I'm not arguing with you. I'm not arguing with y'all, right? The bottom line is, according to my understanding of the scriptures, the wilderness experience is going to be a time of trials and testing and humility and humbling. It ain't going to be easy. And so when we look at what's happening here, you're going to have two choices. And it's sort of what happened during the time of Hitler. The Jews had a time to flee. They had a time to leave before the camps. It's going to be the same way. You're going to probably have a chance to leave before the camps, right? Just a thought. I mean, they might throw us in there beforehand. Who knows? So Secretary of State Marco Rubio is expected to travel to Africa this month. Oh, who wants to see him on the continent? Could it be that he's going there to make a backroom deal for you Negroes to go back to the continent? I'm just asking. With Kenya and Ethiopia as likely stops, U.S. diplomats on the continent have already been instructed to dedicate greater efforts towards supporting the U.S. private sector in identifying and closing business deals. The State Department's top Africa official, Troy Fitrell, told me in an email this will also benefit African nations as we engage as sovereign partners and equals led by each of our respective national interests. For now, the Trump team is shrugging at previous arguments for maintaining aid, such as humanitarian responsibilities or the threat of a Chinese imprint. And although the U.S. still plans to offer countries emergency humanitarian aid for natural disasters or other immediate crises, it will insist on firm and quick end dates. This is an investment. This is not like we're going to keep paying for 40 years for you to have your health care, one Trump administration official involved with foreign aid discussions said of African governments. I granted this person and several of the 7 other current and former U.S. and African officials interviewed for this column anonymity because the diplomatic issues they discussed are sensitive both in Washington and inside foreign governments. Trump and his team are fast-tracking efforts to achieve a goal that other U.S. presidents, including his 4 immediate Democratic and Republican predecessors, articulated to varying degrees to shift the nature of the U.S. relationship with Africa. Each saw some progress, but none was willing to slash aid so deeply and suddenly. Basically, Africa needs to learn to walk without crutches or training wheels, which is true. All of the raccoons on the continent gonna have to be removed, right? The overwhelming sense among African officials is that they need to pony up what they can to effectively buy Trump's love, the transactionalism for which he's well known. The Democratic Republic of Congo is offering access to critical minerals in exchange for U.S. help battling rebels forces. Massa Boulos, the father-in-law of Trump's daughter, Tiffany, was named recently to a role looking into such potential deals in the DRC and other African countries. See, they want them resources. They're making backroom deals. Trump gonna make the deals now. And Somalia has offered the U.S. operational control over certain ports. Angola will likely keep U.S. backing for the Lobito corridor, a rail project that can help the U.S. access minerals. Togo, which is touting its track record in quietly mediating some African conflicts, could also see continued U.S. support, according to a former U.S. official familiar with the African diplomatic circles. A Togo official did not respond to questions about the mediation pitch. Some African nations will have an easier time staying on the U.S. radar simply because of their political sway on the continent. Hey there, Kenya and Ethiopia. Importance to energy markets, Nigeria, or other one-off reasons. Some are more financially and politically able to absorb the shock of losing U.S. aid than others, but some will have little to offer for Washington's benefit, and they may choose to side with U.S. adversaries on the global stage, whether at the UN or in a war. At least one South Africa is likely to be in the cold for a long time under Trump. The president's team is infuriated by South Africa's foreign policy choices, especially its diplomatic attacks on that nation in the Middle East, and accuses South Africa's government of persecuting white Afrikaners. Trump has recently kicked out South Africa's ambassador in Washington and set up a refugee program for white Afrikaners. South African officials insist Trump is misrepresenting them, especially on the Afrikaner issue. It doesn't help that African diplomatic corps in Washington is weak, with poorly funded sub-Saharan African embassies, in particular, having little visibility. One African diplomat told me lobbyists are reaching out to the embassies, offering their services as interlocutors with the Trump team. But many diplomatic posts lack the funds to hire such guns. Some expect their diplomatic budgets to shrink as their governments try to plug holes left by the shuttered U.S. aid programs. I think it's a good thing that they're getting shut down, all of these African programs. Besides, the Trump team has yet to fill several high-level Africa-related roles, so African diplomats aren't sure who to turn to. It's chaotic, a second such diplomat told me. One way in which African countries have traditionally tried to wield more global sway is through collective action via the AU, African Union. But African diplomats tell me it seems pointless to deal with Trump administration through the AU. The AU's trash anyway, right? They have no power. They're not Pan-Africanists. They're just mediators for working through a colonizer agenda. Because Trump and his aide generally dismiss multilateral bodies and prefer bilateral deals. In addition, most multilateral African institutions aren't unified on how to deal with Trump. Many Democratic lawmakers support moving the relationship with Africa away from aid, but they argue the Trump administration should have worked with Congress to introduce a new model. In other words, a new way to control the continent. Democrats also say Trump broke the law by dismantling U.S. aid without consulting Congress. Well, I'm glad he did, right? Because U.S. aid kept Africa on a teat of the Western woman, right? Senator Chris Coons noted that Congress had, on bipartisan basis and under the first Trump administration, created the International Development Finance Corporation. That agency espouses the private sector ideal the Trump team is pushing. Like many others, Coons warned that China would benefit from Trump's seeming retrenchment. We've just handled them the best possible opportunity to expand their economic partnership with the fastest growing continent on earth, where there are more young workers, more economic natural resources, and more opportunity for them now than anywhere else, Coons said. But Trump administration officials scoff at the idea that Congress would have helped them quickly reform America's foreign aid infrastructure and its relationship with Africa. And he's right. U.S. lawmakers are too beholden to too many interests to make grand moves, they say. For example, some U.S. lawmakers are likely to insist on accountability measures related to human rights and democracy, neither of which is a priority for Trump. The reason that no one ever did it is because it's just too hard to get stuff like this done with Congress the totally proper way, the Trump administration officials said. We actually did do it. The Trump team strategy is still in flux, so caveats and carve-outs will apply. Even now, despite canceling more than 80% of its programs worldwide, the State Department and what's left of U.S. aid, which Trump intends to absorb in the state, are continuing some aid programs in certain African countries. It's also hard to predict how much interest the U.S. will have on the security side, especially if terrorist groups on African soil more directly threaten the U.S. homeland. I got the sense, to my surprise, that the Trump team isn't too worried about China. The Chinese economy is struggling, and China's approach to foreign aid is far less generous than America's, including relying more on loans. Plus, some of Trump's team suspect the China threat has been overhyped by an aid establishment that took too much of the money meant for needy people overseas. That's a myth that they tell you to tell aid, the Trump administration said. Africans are already dying because of the U.S. aid cuts. That's not true. And there's been an outcry, mainly among Democrats, over the scaling down of the president's emergency plan for aid relief, aka PEPFAR, and the George Bush era health initiative that has funded HIV/AIDS treatments on the African continent. All of this is just to control the people on the continent. Still, people in Trump's orbit are not moved by such anecdotes of data, seeing them as parts of tired arguments that have prevented a needed radical change in U.S. ties with Africa. One person pointed out that the E in PEPFAR stands for emergency, yet the program is now more than 2 decades old. What about the tariffs? When I pointed out that they could damage African firms' ability to do business with the U.S., I was told there would likely be future deals to ease the pain. I'm hoping that kind of a short-term turbulence that's going to be worked out, said Tibor Nagy, a former assistant secretary of the state of Africa in the first Trump term, who until recently served in another top state role for Trump on an acting basis. When it comes to Africa, the paradigm has shifted under Trump, whether or not people are ready. There's going to be a fundamental change, Nagy said, and the African countries are going to figure out that the new relationship is much healthier for their societies. Maybe not for the elites, but definitely for their societies and for the young people that are desperate for jobs. That's what our whole policy should be geared towards. All right. So basically what I see happening is the training wheels have to come off. Africa gonna have to ride their bikes without training wheels. They're gonna have to stop relying on the West for aid, and they're gonna have to start working internally with other African nations. And people like Ibrahim Traore, by the grace of the Most High, who survived, umpteen assassinations attempt. People like Ibrahim Traore are going to become very influential on the continent because now they're going to be forced to work together. And with America removing its embassies and removing some of its bases off the continent, is going to force realignment of, international agreements and nations, right? And so probably a lot more transactions are going to occur between the BRICS nations and the African continent. So I think just my theory that basically what I see happening is that America is going to make it uncomfortable for the diaspora here in America, that we are going to be forced to leave, right? We're going to be forced. Like I said, I told you they're going to push us out. And as we become uncomfortable, they're going to make agreements, as I mentioned, with African nations to take us in. This is just my theory. Pay them some kind of resettlement money or something like that. Why? To make America white again, right? Because we all know that's what Make America Great is. Make America Great Again is to make America white again. And basically, that's what I see. And if you don't go, if you do what you want, I ain't telling nobody do nothing. All I'm saying is, if you don't go, you're going to end up falling under the judgments that's coming upon this nation. All right, so I'm going to put the link out there, see what y'all got to say about it. We'll get a few. I'll let you make your comment, and then I'll put you behind, and, and that'll be that. So if you want to come on, there we go. And while we're waiting for you to come on, I'm going to play my clip for my book. So while y'all looking to come on, all right. Well, family, the wait is over. The moment has arrived where truth emerges triumphant from the shadows of history. Introducing the true Jerusalem, the lost kingdoms of the Israelites, the groundbreaking work by me, Jacoby Vale, a journey into the past that reshapes the future. I cut through centuries of misconceptions with piercing clarity. This book delivers a compelling case packed with evidence that commands attention and gonna get some respect. Come with me for a second, family, and discover how these thrilling civilizations flourished, protected by towering highlands and sustained by advanced engineering. Some have asked, where is Jerusalem? Is it the land in the Middle East? I say no. It is in the highlands of Ethiopia. With hours of groundbreaking research, this book brings in a new revelation, and it will transform your understanding of African history and its connections to the ancient world. It's going to remove from your mind the conditioning by the Romans of what has really happened to our past. Come with me, family, to the Ethiopian highlands and find out why this is our land, why things have been hidden and obfuscated for centuries. We are royalty, children of the Most High. What kind of land do you expect us to have? Dried up dirt in the Middle East, or land flowing with rivers? A land full of beautiful animals flowing with milk and honey. Don't miss out on this monumental unveiling. Grab your copy today and stand on the side of truth. Visit Amazon.com or www.tailministries.com to purchase your book and join Jacoby Vale's teachings on Tail Ministries. Family, your journey to hidden history has now begun. So family, get your copy of True Jerusalem, the Lost Kingdoms of the Israelites today. Journey to the heart of Africa, where history and legend converge to reveal the forgotten kingdoms of the Israelites and the true location of Jerusalem. All right, welcome back, Brother Pierre. How's it going? I can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you now.
Oh, okay. Man, I agree with you. There's something going on in the background, like you said. I do agree that there's going to be some kind of deal cut for us to go back. You know, I've talked to you multiple times, and I've asked you about, I've got property here, and because if they offer it to me, or me and my wife, I'm most definitely out of here. But the thing is, how do you part with property that you have, businesses and things that you have? That's the thing that gets me. But I do believe that they're going to offer you a package to get out of here, and it's kind of, every time I listen to you, man, it all starts to fit together. Do you remember, like a year and a half ago, the young lady came on with her dream, and there was this debate with some of the guys on the panel, and she was saying that they're gonna come in and they're gonna offer you this package to leave, and if you don't leave, everything's gonna be shut down. And listening to her dream, it made the way she depicted is that, this land was going to be desolate. And now that you're speaking, I kind of rearranged that and say it would be desolate, destitute to us, those who stay, because whatever money you get is going to be of no use to you here. If you keep it and don't leave, it's going to be of no use to you. Because like you said, they're trying to make this, make America great again type thing. Like you said, we all know what that's about. This thing is moving fast. I mean, I don't know if you spoke about you know, the head of their God just passed away on Easter, and like you said, you know, he passed on Easter. That's the religious leader, Prince.
Don't forget Klaus Schwab. He stepped
Okay.
down from the World Economic Forum.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I was going to say. The next part of this triangle, which is the financial head of this thing, and I believe that's King Charles. His health ain't so good either. And then you got the military arm of this, which is, you know, Mr. Donald J. Trump himself. So this thing is collapsing, man, real fast. And like you said, I've been to Africa multiple times, and our people, we need to get our minds right, because when we get over there, the ones that do make it, you know, there was times when I was over there, man, they go without electricity pretty much 2-3 days in a row. Now, the fortunate part of it is a lot of people there have been you know, mindful enough to get generators and solar power, so that it really doesn't bother them. But how many of us could get out and harvest the food that we eat every day, slaughter cattle and things of that nature? How many of us could do that now? Some of us don't even know how to fish. So let alone garden. Yeah, let alone garden. So we have got to get our minds right, man, because if you don't get it right, you ain't gonna make it. Our people are too soft. We are too soft. And yeah, man, I don't know what to say. This thing is speeding up really fast.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for coming on, Brother Pierre. Appreciate it. Brother Robert, how's it going?
How you doing, Jacoba?
Bless.
All right. Well, like you said, I think it's all staged. And the brother said that the head of the Catholic Church just died. Well, that was over a year ago. He's dead. They just now announced it because it's all staged, like you said. And I agree with him. King Charles is on the list to be eliminated. And getting back to the ebb and flow of things, yeah, I think we're being pushed out. But we have people that are already over in Africa that are ruffling the feathers over there. You know, like O'Shea and all of them people. So I just hope that everything goes smoothly. They make me an offer, I'm gone.
Me too.
Yeah, I got a house and some land that I need to get together over there. And ain't nothing going to keep me here. I ain't got nothing to stop me from leaving. So
well,
anyway,
just think about it. For those people who decide to stay, I don't think they're going to be able to keep their property. I don't think they're going to be able to afford the taxes. I don't think they're going to be able to afford anything.
Well, the part that really bothers me, Jacoba, is this. They're really pushing this Indian thing that we were already here.
Oh, and yeah.
Part of that is true. We were already here. But
yeah, they had some of us here. They did.
But not to the effect that they're saying. They're saying we were in, and what they're trying to do is get these people to stay here and do that. What do you call it? That fighting, and we could be the first ones to be sacrificed.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So you become face of it. But I ain't gonna be here. I'll be the first one out of here. As soon as they say, here's some money for reparations and you can go, adios.
And the other thing is, what is there, and I'm not telling anybody to do anything, but I'm saying, what if, Trump is able to complete all of the things he wants to do? Who's literally going to want to stay here? I mean, because this is going to be white paradise, not black paradise. All right. So it's like, do you want to go back into Jim Crow laws? Do you want to go back to, segregation to the point where, not only, you can't go to their places, but you can't work in their businesses, because now we have an integrated financial system where before you could have worked on the side of the road, sold some watermelons and made some money. You can't do that anymore. Everything gonna be electronic. They're gonna control everything.
That's true. And also, it's getting that way now, because these people are getting emboldened now since.
Yep.
Yeah. And they're treating us like any old way. Like back in the 60s.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
I remember growing up in the 60s. You see a policeman, keep your head down and keep moving.
Sound like today, huh?
Yeah. But anyway, I'll let you get somebody else on, and good talking.
All right. Thanks for coming on, Brother Robert. Appreciate it. Hey, Minister Rick, how's it going?
I'm doing fine. You're informative as usual. I kind of have a different perspective from this point. I think we overestimate what people can do. It's kind of like the people, the slaves that are on the plantation, and they never could see a world outside the plantation. Sugar land ain't never gonna die. The fact is that America's not going to escape its judgment. That judgment is going to happen on us. So then what they get is not going to be a white paradise, all those things like that, going back to Jim Crow. If they can put us in Jim Crow, that's good, because we're being forced to separate. See, we have to get away from them people so we won't be collateral damage to their judgment. They didn't pay our judgment. They didn't suffer under our judgment. We're not going to suffer under them. I believe that what must happen is that the brother, when he brought out talk about the damage and devastation done by our families, done to our families, and all the things, he laid it out. What was done, the deconstruction, the COINTELPRO. Well, we can start some of that repair right here of at least getting together on the one. One thing, a lot of the teachings of Teo Ministries, we look at Africa as a monolith. I'm going to Africa. But I study your research. Well, who are the Amalekites? Who are the Philistines? Who are the people that were our enemies? They may still be our enemies. Where are our people? I'm still studying that. I also listen to Teo Ministry, thinking that we're out of judgment. We're out of the 400 years. There ain't no 400 years. We don't need to be acting like there ain't no 400 years. We're out of judgment, and that was brilliant. That teaching, we are the Ark of the Covenant. You're not going to just be able to just do the Ark anyway.
That's true.
You can't just come up so we might get pushed out here. Please take the money and go. It may be like out of Egypt. Not nobody beating you out and they got like they in control pushing us out. It may be like, here, take. We may be just spoiling that stuff. Here, take this, go, because we'll be bringing so much judgment on them just being here. So they're not in control, and we can't conflate what they're able to do. This is the Most High's doing, and we're going over there. But I really think the timetable is set by the Most High, and we got to have some stick work. The stick over there, Ephraim's being worked on, and Judah's being worked on. And in this crucible that's over here, a lot of that work is being done in the midst of this crucible. But ultimately, we're going to be purged out in the wilderness. I don't think God's in the business of leaving anybody here. Just like, like Lot didn't have a choice. We all going to be pushed out because his name, because it ain't about us. It's about him and his name. And he said he's going to get us all out, and we all going to go all out. But he's going to deal with us, put us under the rod of correction, and deal with us in the wilderness. And one final thing I'll land my plane on. I think we get a couple of generations of children born in Africa. They ain't going to have no problem with any of that stuff. One of the things the Africans say, that the children that come over here that are children of first generation immigrants from Africa are different. They're Americans, they say. So we get over our children going to figure it out. But I'm not concerned about what I know many of us, if we could, we would. And if it was time, we would have the means. It wouldn't be, I wish I could get, if I could, I would go. No, it'll be possible. When it's time for you to go, you're going to have the means to go. But I
agree with that.
I don't believe it's time for us to go right now. We got a lot of work to put us in over here, as they do. They got coons over there. We got coons over here. We got to
for real.
we got to rebuild our families over here. That's what I'm talking about. The deconstruction they did on families and things like that. We can do that work. You can love your wife. You can marry.
Yeah.
We can do this. We can start to live under Torah here.
But according to the scriptures, the family is going to be brought back together when we're back on the continent. I mean, that's the scriptures. But.
Okay, well, that is so. Well, if it's in the scriptures, that is so. But that doesn't stop you from putting your house in order here.
Oh, I agree with that.
We may not doing that collectively, but we can put our house together here and teach our children to do so in our immediate family. So yeah, ultimately the families will come over there because we don't have the resources, not only the land and the resources. See, when God didn't separate families from land. That's every family was allocated land in Israel. So you can't fully put the family together when you don't have land. But
that is true.
You can rebuild the social relationships here, and you can change the rules of engagement. Right over here, these Babylon rules of engagement, we have the rules and engagement of the slave breeding plantation. And we've allowed a whole lot of that stuff. And that's a lot of
I think one of the things that's going to force us together and let's say at least start the healing of the family is the fact that we're going to be forced to disengage from the system and rely on each other to survive, right?
That's the point. I'm gonna be quick. I'm known to go long, but I'm gonna be really quick on this. I told you my mother is 105 years old this year, and
wow,
she's
that's a blessing.
Yeah, it's a blessing, but I get her perspective. She said in 1920 things like that, black folks wasn't killing each other like that when she was a child.
Yeah.
And the other thing, her father went on relief. Welfare, Works Progress Administration, that meant they gave your daddy a job. That's what relief was, and you still served the family. Then they came in the 60s. They gonna give your mom a check. You can't have a daddy. Then they came in under the Clintons. What's mama doing staying at home with these kids? Get them out. So it's a whole lot of deconstruction. They sold us a bill of goods that the Uncle Sam was going to be your husband and family. So when these Democrats, you saw a lot of women out crying and stuff like that. And we went, why are they going off like that? Because they lost their husband. They had been wed to the system and he betrayed them. And so again, we black men and black women we have to change the rules and a lot of it there. Ultimately, we're not going to get together because we don't have the economic position to do that. But we can still love on each other and operate. I'll say one thing for America, on a continent-wide basis, and this is what we can teach the continent to continent, there are no black people on the planet can get together continent-wide better than us once we decide something to do that. And that's neat. If they could do that in Africa, they're helping this young man, Carmelo Anthony, getting together on that. Now, if we could get together like that on buying a certain shipping container and stuff like that, get that type of money together, we could do other things. But that's another thing. So I'm just saying we are still being put together here. I think we're on God's timetable. So we don't need to be fearful. We just need to be watchful, prayerful, and put in work here and in Africa, because we're going to have to build the infrastructure over here. We have to build our families here. I'll land my plane on that.
All right. Thank you, Minister Rick. Appreciate it. All right, so Jermaine, J Snap, you're gonna have to show me your face since it's your first time coming on. Hi, Sister Stacy Ann. Hi, welcome back. How's it going? All right, that's good.
How you doing?
How you been, Sister Stacy?
Me, I'm good enough. Good. God is good.
So what you think
You
about all
hearing me?
this? Yeah, I hear you.
Oh, honestly, there's a whole lot of things happening, and I've been considering the fact that they have been saying that, well, what you have been saying has been coming to pass, and anticipating the, what you want to call it now, the removal of Negroes from America. I'm also anticipating them experiencing their downfall because they are promoting this thing that they are the ones who built the nation. And they will find out, maybe not soon enough, but will, not too long, after the Negroes have left, that truly it is being held up. It was being held up or being preserved because of the presence of the Negroes in the United States. And broadly, I'm thinking too of the world that had we not been scattered, I believe Yah would have already demonstrated his power in this world and destroyed it. But because we're under punishment, that is why I believe the world continues to be. We are resilient, and we are why these nations continue to prosper, because wherever we are, there is prosperity. But the thing is, we are the ones who are reaping the benefits, you know. But things will
Yep.
change. I remember the last time I spoke with you, I told you that God said, tell people to come home because it is time to leave because of what the land is not going to be the same. And say all of these changes are happening rapidly. Recently, again, he said, tell them again. Tell them again, come home. When to come home? No. Welcome problems. And you can't call what is happening anything other than problems. Problems. I believe this mass deportation that is taking place is one of the things that will help to help some people to avoid that which is coming up and the judgment that is coming, because they will not choose to leave on their own. They will choose to remain. I mean, I want to ask you, the FBAs, is it that they did not experience any kind of segregation, no form of discrimination? Why it is they are so adamant that where they are is where they will stay, or they continue to believe that all black people, because I won't say all Negroes, because not all black people are Negroes and they are not all Israelites. So those who believe that they are native to the land, did they not suffer any of the things that Israel suffered? Why they?
Every Negro on it in America suffered. So FBA, their whole issue is, from my understanding at least, is that they pretty much don't want to share any reparations or whatever that we have in America, or any of our things that we've gained here with people who are not foundational Black Americans. If I'm wrong, y'all correct me in the chat, but that's my understanding.
So they believe that the reparations would only be for the descendants of slaves and not for them, or other way around?
Not for immigrants.
Oh.
But the Bible says that, everybody who is Israel who's been scattered going to get, rewards, right? Get the reparations, if that's what you want to call it. But that's what Foundation of Black America, they believe that immigrants did not suffer the same as, the Foundation of Black Americans who are descendants of slaves. So they don't want to share what they got with anybody else.
Oh, I thought them calling themselves foundational Black Americans meant that they weren't descendants of slaves. That's what I believe, because I remember.
No, that's
okay.
that's the ones who call themselves Native American Indians. They believe they were, they believe they were here the whole time. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I understand now, because I was wondering. Yeah. So man, as I'm observing, things are going as expected, and nothing more than problems. So I hear you telling people, oh, I'm not telling you to be fearful, but what we are asking everybody to be sensible, because if it is that things are changing so fast and what is happening is not to your benefit, everything seems to be against. This thing shut off.
Okay.
Everything
All right.
seems
Thank you,
to be
Sister
against.
Stacy.
Yeah.
All right. Appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, man. No problem.
Bye. All right, brother Jermaine, how's it going?
It's going pretty good, brother Yacoba. How are you?
Doing good.
Yes, sir. I had a few questions. Based off of some of my thoughts. I really only have my wife to talk to. But I've just been kind of peeping, I don't know, social media, just kind of following, looking at, our people. And, with how I feel in my heart, how my wife feel, how much we want to get out of here, right? I'm hearing Minister Rick talking about, the moment they give us an opportunity, we out. Like, that's how I feel, right? And I'm sure that's how you feel, right? But I'm looking at like the black church, and I'm looking, there's a lot of black churches, specifically where I live here in Greensboro, North Carolina. And I know some good ones, actually. They don't believe that we're Israel, but they're not like the traditional hoop and holler black church. They try their best to, live theology right. But I'm not hearing anybody say anything about the conditions here. Everybody seems to be just talking as if, they're going to be here perpetually. Like, I'm a filmmaker by trade. Like, I'm a videographer. And, like, even like for the first time, people are giving me, I guess, the opportunity to get gigs in like the following year, like especially for weddings. Hey, I'm getting married in 2026, 27. And for the first time, like, I kind of want to pause and be like, in my mind, I'm like, yo, I'm not going to be here, bro. Right? Like, I'm not going to be here. And I'm not even trying to make plans that far. But I was always under the impression, I've always been under the impression that if the Most High is about to do some work, he's going to speak to his people, even those who don't believe they're Israel. I'm thinking there's some people who are trying their best to follow scripture. They're just not on it yet. But I'm not seeing it anywhere. I'm on Threads, I'm on X, and all people are talking about it. I'm seeing a lot of this. I don't know if you've seen this. I'm seeing a lot of black Christians coming out saying things like, man, I'm Christian before I'm black. I'm starting to see people come out and say things like, if you're pro-black, you're ungodly. And it's not like one or two. I'm talking about 5, 10, right? And I'm like, man, where is this coming from? I would have thought at this time, even those who don't know who they are will start to hear the voice of the Ruach and be like, nah, something ain't right.
You know why? Because Christianity is white supremacy. I don't care if it's a black church or a white church, it's white supremacy. And the doctrine that they believe is white supremacist doctrine, right? Which believe that the church is Israel, right? And that we all are the same. There's no difference between us, and that's a lie, right?
Man, you ain't
they don't
lying.
know. Yeah, they don't know the scriptures, man. And then the church is their 501c3, so they can't say anything about the current political situation because they're gonna lose their 501c3 status.
Well, I mean, to that point, what's the pastor, real popular black pastor? I think he's in Atlanta. He had just gotten a bunch of trouble with the black community because he said we need to teach our what he said, we need to teach our children how to respect, the police. And then you know what I'm talking about? Yeah, you seen that?
I haven't seen that one.
I think it's.
But here's the thing: it's like, well, if the police don't respect you, how are you gonna have the kids respect the police, right? If the police just see you walking down the street and harass you because you're a young black kid walking down the street, how do you build respect for that, right? I mean, see, the problem is a lot of these black churches are raccooning, right? They raccooning because they benefit from white supremacy. They benefit from the white system that the white churches have built up within black churches. Just as we had the slave Bible, right? We have slaves teaching, right? It's the same thing. They're teaching us white supremacy theology and not the scriptures, right?
Yeah, I'm sorry, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna just say that none of these Christians can defeat anything we teach at TL Ministries. They can ignore it, they can gaslight it, they can twist it. But like I say, even like with the flea doctrine, right? That's what they call it, flea doctrine. Like I say, show me that the Bible doesn't say flee. Okay, they can't do that. And that's just how it is, right? It's the same thing with any kind of doctrine. When it comes down to put up or shut up, they can't.
Well, I think another conclusion would be white proximity is a heck of a drug, man.
It is.
I mean, it's I had my little time period where I thought, and then I had to go through it. I had to have the white people that were around me. I had to have them crush my dreams for me to realize, oh, nah, You know, that's not what it is. And then I'll make this last statement and I'll get off. But I'm wondering like what that wake up call is going to look like, right? When they're between a rock and a hard place, where on the left it's we must leave, or on the right it's we want you to leave, and you better leave, or you're going to be hurt, or you're not going to have any property. And then you see folk like us, like we gone. Like I wonder, in a sense, what's their Negro wake up call going to look like? How is that going to pan out, right? How would that begin to matriculate, and what are we going to start to see? Because I'm of the belief that many of them will wake up, right? I'm still there. I'm still thinking many people are going to wake up. But I mean, what are your thoughts? You think that's going to happen, or you think it's like many are just going to realize it's too late?
See, I think the scripture, the scripture says that the Most High not going to leave any behind. But the scripture also states that if you escape the sword, right? So there's a balance there between, like what the scripture says, deliver thyself, O Zion, from the daughter of Babylon. So there's some decisions that we're going to have to make. Now, my theory, right? Because I mean, that's all we could do is theorize when it comes to future prophecies, is that as the racism increases and you start seeing more of the Proud Boys and the KKK and these white supremacist groups getting more mainline, right? They're gonna become more mainline, sort of like what the Gestapo was in Germany, right? When the Gestapo here, which is white supremacy, becomes more mainline, more of the liberal whites are going to either shut up or align with that Gestapo side of white supremacy. So these black folks who want to align with Eurocentric theology and all this stuff, they're gonna have to make a decision, because these churches are going to be against them. There's not going to be any safe havens. They're gonna feel unwanted, right? And look, and if our people start leaving, right, we start leaving, and they're here by themselves, they're gonna feel more unwanted, and there's gonna be less support for them. So more of us gonna leave, right? So I think that's how it could happen. But as I mentioned before on other shows, I am expecting a supernatural miracle. Right? Because
exactly.
Even if you look at Revelation 12, even when we leave, right, and we start to go into the wilderness, the dragon comes against us. He spews out water to come and try to kill us as we leave, and the Most High opens the earth to swallow the water, right? So apparently another type of Pharaoh situation, right, is going to happen, where Pharaoh chasing us and try to stop us from leaving. So that's why I say I don't think we're going to get out of here without a supernatural miracle. I mean, I think it requires it, but I think some of us might be able to leave, because look, here's the thing. We got what? We're 13% of the population. What percentage is that in a million? Like what? I don't know, 40 million, something? I don't know.
Yeah, around, I would say so.
Yeah. And so in order to get that many Negroes, African Americans, Hebrew Israelites out, it can't happen in one day. It can't happen in 1 week. It's going to be a few months at least. Right. So it's going to be a process. And I think the ones who leave earlier, I think it's going to be better for those who leave earlier than those who wait. Right. I think the ones who the last ones on the ship, they probably going to be the ones deal with Pharaoh chasing you. Right. So that's just my theory.
So you're saying like you think it's going to be like a delayed leaving in a sense, like a or staggered leaving.
Progressive, yeah.
Progressive probably be better. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, I thank you for your time. I think I took up too much time. Blessings. Shalom, everybody.
All right. Thanks for coming on. Okay. Bye. Well, fam, I think these are interesting times. I like to share what I see happening, and whatever, how it plays out. Nobody can really tell you specifically how things are going to play out. But I do believe that if you're watchful, you can see that something's wrong. You can see that there's an agenda in place, right? You can see that a plan is being followed. Now, whether you call that plan Project 2025 or something else, right? There's a plan in place, and the moves that the Trump administration is making, when you look at the policies and the programs and the laws that are enacted and laws that are being canceled, is literally anti-Negro laws, right? Anti-Negro protection, anti-Negro economic advancement, anti-this, anti-that, anti-Negroes being able to have Medicaid and Medicare and SNAP benefits and unemployment, right? All that stuff that keep us going when we lose a job or we get sick, right, is being removed. So they're making it where you're not going to want to stay, right? I mean, if you look at the policies and the projects and the programs, it's a bit obvious. Now, I think that the concerning part, not that I'm concerned, but I'm just saying in general, is that he's moving very fast, right? It's like, well, what's this timeline? Is it that Deagle Report 2025 deal going on? I don't know. I do know that their deadline is 2030, based upon Agenda 2030, which is to have the whole New World Order, New World, one world government. But we're at the time, in my opinion, this is a time of decision, right? And that's why you got so many people being exposed today. It's not only a time of decision, but it's a time of judgment. It's a time of exposure. And that's why you have pastors and mores and camp leaders and all these people being exposed today, right? Because this is a time of judgment and a time of exposure and a time for people to decide, those who are on the Lord's side, right? I'm gonna say it that way. Those who are on Yahuwah's side, come over here, right? And that's where we're at. We're at a decision-making time. And those people who are not prepared for it, there's many people who are going to fall and compromise. Sort of like what happened with those in the music industry, right? My opinion is, and it seems to be the case, every single entertainer, actor, musician, successful, right? Successful entertainer, musician, actor are all compromised. That's my opinion. They all have compromised. And spiritually speaking, they call themselves Christian believers, whatever, but they compromise. That's my opinion. And I think that's where we're at today, that even on the lowest scale, a lot of people are going to have to make a decision. Do I stand for truth and righteousness? And do I stand for the Most High and His word, or will I compromise? And I think that's what we're dealing with today. And a lot of people going to be exposed, right? So that's all I got, family. If y'all want to support this ministry, you can by becoming a patron. You can also support by going to tailministries.com, click on the donations tab. There's many other options there. You can support by Cash App, $TEOTW7101, $TEOTW7101. You can also buy my book. And also, you can buy Minister Tehu's book. They Always Knew We Were the Israelites at Amazon.com. Peace out, family. Love y'all.